need some more than speed records in this day and age. You need coverage.
Coverage? Oh, you mean them little root weevils that crawl around popping off cameras in your face?
Those root weevils write history.
Many of you know that quote by Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth. Well, you can, and Event Horizons will give you those truths. So when you're mad as hell and not going to take it anymore from that memorable senior network, you'll know just what to do. We will draw you in and become your news addiction at Event Horizons. Join us Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Time at freedomslips.com. At Revolution Radio. Our world team members are Dennis Fetcho, John Ilias, David Dunger, Hyla Cass, MD, Melanie Vrichton, Jim Mars, Paula Harris, John Trallo, Maria Payan, Christopher Husser, DODDS, Jonathan Orchard, and me, your anchor, Dr. Robin Falco.
If you decide not to volunteer, it will not be held against you in any way.
Sounds dangerous. It is. Very dangerous. Count me in.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps.
Enjoy your extra big-ass fries.
You didn't give me no fries. I got an empty box.
Would you like another extra big-ass fries?
I said I didn't get any.
Thank you. Your account has been charged. Your balance is 0. Please come back when you can afford to make a purchase.
No.
I'm sorry you're having
trouble.
trouble.
Come on. My kids are starving.
Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we believe in freedom of ideas, freedom of speech, but above all, we believe in freedom of existence through self-reliance. This station is 100% listener-supported, and as a fundraising promotion, I have a kick-ass free gift for a $100 donation. 35,000 seeds. 25 years in the freezer. Long-term storable, 54 different varieties. So if food prices go crazy, the shit hits the fan, or if you just want to save tons of money every year by creating your own food like I do, grab our seed pack special. Just look for the banner on the homepage at freedomslips.com. Don't be a statistic. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. We need, as humans, to start taking care of ourselves and not depending on the megacorps to provide unhealthy, nasty food. Included in this package is also a DVD with 900 survival and off-grid living documents and the offline home canning how to do everything website all on the DVD. So when you're growing all that food, you know how to can it, store it, preserve it, etc. with all these documents. So thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I hope that you will pick up this package and start learning to be free. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps and freedom is one seed that needs to be planted.
What we do in life, it goes in eternity.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, good day. Welcome to Researchers Radio Live. I'm your host, Joe Kieran, along with co-host, fellow hostie, Dave Stinnett. What's going on, brother?
What's going on, Joe?
Man, everything's doing good. Can't complain, man. Weather's fantastic.
Nice, relaxing weekend up in the mountains.
I wish. No mountains here, buddy. Did you got to get out of town again and put your feet up?
Yeah, you have to go up every once in a while, at least to mow the lawn. So
right.
But I haven't been up there in a few weeks, and it was like way overgrown. It's like a jungle up there.
Nice, hot, humid day.
Well, actually, it was hot, but there was a nice cool breeze blowing Saturday, so I was doing work around the house and just digging life.
Very cool, man. Very cool. It's just hot here. It's just hot, man.
Yeah, it is. I'm back in Jersey now.
Played a little golf this morning. It was good. Got out there, enjoying the fresh breezes of South Carolina. Nice ocean breeze, though, man. It was absolutely gorgeous day, man. Crazy. The weather, such a big difference. When I went to sleep last night, they said there's 80% chance of rain. It was going to probably rain till noon. It was one of the most gorgeous mornings we've had all year, man. It was fantastic. Tim C., what's going on, dude?
Well, I
Why
can tell
why
you,
don't you come and say hello?
it's not as nice up here in Pine Bush, New York, but it's nice, but we don't have beautiful blue skies all day. It was mostly overcast and, kind of muggy, but what are you going to do?
It sounds,
As you
make it
know,
sound so uplifting.
I run from air conditioning to air conditioning because I have translucent skin and the sun just devours me.
Yeah. You need
Now it was overcast. It was overcast on the mountain today up there too, Tim. Yesterday was beautiful, but today I thought it was going to rain, so I kind of tried to beat feet before the weather kicked in.
Mm-hmm.
It was this nasty haze that just seemed to go on forever. Ugh. But hey,
And we got 4th of July weekend coming up. Well, it's really not a weekend, but it is a Friday, I think, right?
it's Friday. That's right.
But this whole week down here is crazy. There's just idiots firing fireworks off everywhere. It's really what happens.
Oh, come on. Have a little patriotism there, Joe.
Oh, no, I'm all for it. It's just, it's people come here into the state, and they might not have ever been legally allowed to purchase fireworks before. And
they break out the
let's
credit
be
cards.
real, there's usually a little bit of alcohol involved. And, these are like mortars, And when you try to figure out, let's see if it can blow this thing up and that thing, well, they do blow up, And,
I can't say nothing. When I was a little younger, I did some pretty stupid things, and the alcohol was definitely a factor.
Right, but when I was younger, you got firecrackers in the M80s, just the regular things like that. But when you could get things that could shoot a few hundred meters in the air and explode, they sell these things at gas stations around here. So you really can fill up your truck, get a 12-pack of beer and some mortars at the same time.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's a drive-through, so it's quite convenient. Actually, there's a fast food joint attached to it as well, just in case.
Now that's living, Joe.
I'll tell you, man, it sure as hell is, dude.
You don't have none of that stuff here.
Oh my goodness!
I remember when I was in New Orleans, there was a drive-through beer distributor, and you could get cigarettes too. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, we got drive-through cigarette joints here. Yeah, sure. Yeah. I laugh about them, but it's you get quite used to it, and then just going like back up north. You're right, Tim. It really is. It's sometimes I really feel that I'm just in a completely different country altogether in this state compared to.
Well, you know what, man? South of the Mason-Dixon line, things are very different. And you know what?
Oh my God!
When that trip I was just talking about, when I went down to New Orleans, it was actually it was like the spring before Katrina hit, and I was down there with a buddy of mine. We rented a convertible, and we were just driving up and down. The truth is, you can think whatever you want, but we were driving on the strip there, and not really the strip, but one of the main roads. In the middle of the day, and had a beer sitting right in the coaster, and a cop just walks right up to us as we were sitting in traffic. Says, "You guys got to turn your lights on. It's dusk. You got to turn the lights on. Have a good day. Just let us go." And I was thinking to myself, man, this is a great town. That was the start of a great week.
Yeah, that's like a real jaw dropper if you're from up here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although it's tougher, I would not drink and drive around this town. That's really the only thing they are very strict on. They try to get every drunk driver
that
they
in
can.
any way, shape, or form. However, I'm just telling what happened.
Right on.
You know what's funny? Up on the mountain, they have these signs on the highways, and it's like, beware of drunk drivers. And it's just like, what, you're putting signs up for them? You got to be careful. You got, what's that all about?
So they can take your attention off the road while you're trying to avoid one.
Warning, drunk drivers. You're like, what?
Where, do they just dart out in front of you?
They're like deer. They pop out on the side of the road.
We always cut up because we've never seen those signs anywhere else. It's like going down to Carolina, and when you get down near the border, they have these signs near the highway, and it's like a husband, like the black figure of like a husband, and he's got the hand of his wife, and his wife has the hand of the baby, and the baby's kind of flying, in the air. Yeah. It's like, be careful, illegal crossings, up here. But it's just funny. It's like, Nowhere would you ever see that sign in America.
You might have dislocated your child's shoulder. For a solid image. You're right, though, man. That's hilarious. So we got a few guests tonight, folks.
Yes, we do.
Listeners at home and my fellow radio show there. Before we get into that here, I want to just mention a few things. I can be forgetful, and I will not this time because I have written them down. Where did I write them down at? I got them right here. I'm just kidding. First of all, before we get going, I want to tell everyone that tonight I'm going to give you a break, and I will not be speaking on Hawk's famous seed pack that I very much enjoyed speaking on. Tonight I will be diverting you. I have something new to tell you about. If you go to the homepage, freedomslips.com, there's a whole bunch of different ways of donating. Besides the donation button, of course, cash is always king in helping us continue to upgrade our software. We are a growing station, and we like to continue our efforts to just raise the bar a little bit. And who's not down for pushing the envelope? So there's a new auction going on here run by the station. You can check it out. A lot of really cool things. You're bound to find something you like. See if you're interested in the price. Throw a few dollars in there, put your bid, and there's probably going to be a few things you like. It's a great way of contributing. You could also do $5 a month for the unlimited use of the archives. And you could easily do $5 and get yourself a little icon in the chat room, because we do tell you every week to go to the chat room. And if you're not in the chat room, you just might not be cool these days. Dave, I'd like to see you in the chat room a little more. You know, I don't see you in there enough, buddy. I look for you.
I'm hardly ever in there, actually.
I know, man. I look for you. Just doesn't feel right for you.
My phone, so.
Right on. One
of these days, I'll get in front of the computer.
You know what you know what else I got going on here? I would like, although we are on radio, everyone, this is not television. If you're looking at your television, I also find that awesome, whether it's on or not. What I would like everyone to do, I rarely ask for favors. However, I have a few friends that were involved in the series known as Uncovering Aliens. And that program, a episode of that series is playing in approximately 47 minutes, I would believe, on the Animal Planet. And I would like to see them get good ratings for tonight, because that could really help them out in getting a second season. And whether you're a big fan of the show or not, I'm asking for your help, because I would like to see more shows of the like, or more shows that are focused on interesting scientific ideas or other phenomenons, or more of the same phenomenon. Maybe a little less Kardashians and Big Brother, things like that. I mean, I really can't believe Big Brother's in episode 90 or something, that you just watch people in a house all day long. That is absolutely ridiculous, in my opinion. That means there's truly nothing going on in your house, that you have to watch people do nothing in their house. I'm never amazed enough to lose my breath, but I would really like to get everyone to tune in to Animal Planet at 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern. I would be grateful, and you'd be doing a lot of good beyond the simple efforts of the remote control. I would greatly appreciate it. But at all costs, please do not turn off this radio station. That would be very dangerous. I wouldn't do that. You don't do both at the same time. With that said, guys, first up tonight, we're going to reach out to him in just a few moments here. We have Mr. William Butts, author of This Republic, Illuminating Republican Government. guys, this is not a new topic. You know, we've kind of hinted on this in quite a bit of the last few shows, honestly. You know, it's almost kind of something that's it's trying to come out on its own, I suppose. But we're going back to the beginning. What do you have to say about that, Dave?
Yeah, we're a patriotic bunch here.
Yeah, it's about patriotism, isn't it?
Definitely.
But
Cool
what about for the people outside of America listening? Because
then they'll be able to understand America a little bit. I think everybody knows we're at some sort of crossroads right now. So I think having somebody come on and discuss what the Republic was supposed to be about is probably a good thing right now.
You know, it's interesting you said that, Joe, because I was reading something earlier today in preparation for the show. This book that this gentleman wrote basically talks about the Republic and how the founding fathers really, you know, what their true intentions were from the beginning. And I was reading something online, and there was somebody had written a comment, and basically he said that people from other countries, when they look at America, they don't consider us to be a representative democracy, a representative republic. We are more a democracy than anything else. The way it's run, the way things are right now, a republic, a true republic, is a different idea, and we seem to have strayed from that.
Dave, do you agree about that? You think the original idea is all but a whisper? It's long gone.
I think people who actually study this stuff pretty much knew that TJ and Adams had pretty much come to the conclusion probably by the end of their lives. It didn't go like they were hoping it to go, but I think they were hoping that the people would straighten that out. So let's hope there was enough people paying attention, you know, to what was going on to actually have that come about. But
because we know a lot of other nations then and still today, a lot of people still know the story of the American Revolution and the story of George Washington and all the stories alike. It was a model, but I've always been impressed on how many people I meet outside of the Americas that know the story very well. And it's always, you know, but then again,
I find Europeans, Joe, generally know American stuff better than the Americans do. I mean, you know,
especially with politics, man.
Yeah, especially with politics. I mean, some of them will. I mean, you can go to some you know, if you work overseas, at some of these places, you know, they know what's going on in California elections better than the Californians do, and you know, you can watch this type of stuff or whatever, but they have a keen eye. They know what they've already are going through, and they're watching us, you know, go down the same path. You know, some are pro and some are con because they see all the, you know, the gun violence and stuff like that. But you know, by and large, the regular citizenry aren't the ones, you know, creating the havoc. There's people out there doing a pretty good job of it.
I'm gonna have to agree with you. We're reaching out to William now. Let's see if we can get him here. Hello, William. Are you there with us?
Yes, I am. How are you?
I'm very well, sir. How are you tonight?
Good.
I am Joe Kiernan, and you're also joined here with Dave Stinnett and Tim C.
Hey, Will.
Hi, Joe. Hi, Dave.
We're doing good.
How you doing, Will?
Good.
How are you enjoying the beginning days of summer?
Oh, it's beautiful here in New England.
Oh, that's what I like to hear.
Where in New England are you?
Oh, I'm in Quincy, right to the south of Boston, right in the sea.
Okay.
So, Will, thank you very much for the book. I want to say first off.
Oh, you're welcome.
Where did you? What was the original inspiration for the arrangement of the book?
The arrangement or just the whole idea?
The whole idea.
Well, it's kind of a funny story. It actually happened pretty much 5 years ago this week. I happened to be downtown on July 4th. If I have nothing to do, I usually do that. I go see the graves of the signers and things. And while I was downtown, I happened to see some guy selling, you know, pamphlets and things and videos about the Gulf War or something. And I happened to be reading a couple of Forrest McDonald books on history. And I always had those ideas floating around in my mind. And I thought, well, he's selling books. I could probably sell a book. And then one day I would happen to be at work, and with nothing to do up at the front desk covering for the receptionist at the job I had at the time. And I said, oh, well, let me look up John Adams's thoughts on government. Just read that for fun. This is what I do. And that was pretty much the beginning. I thought, okay, I can write a short book explaining the American government. And then it just took off from there.
Well, what is the big difference with our founding fathers establishing the government and the way we see it today? We were just discussing before we had you on here in relative topics, and the question I was putting forth is, have we drifted too far from the original idea of our founding fathers, or is this dream still attainable?
No, I think the structure is still there. There's nothing really changed structure-wise. We still have, the separation of powers, and we still have the House, the Senate, and the presidency, and then the states pushing against those. All the powers are still pushing against each other. So the basic structure, I think, is still there. I don't think that even though some people try to get more power with themselves, they tend to be stopped and thwarted by some other group. So yes, I think the dream is still there. We just have to be cautious and make sure that nobody gets too much power in themselves.
I tend to think that that really has started to take place on a escalating scale. There's an elite ruling class, as it's been put by many people, that really is controlling the political direction, all of the policies that in my opinion, I don't know. I truly feel that yes, the structure is still there. This was based on a republic when the founders put it together, but it's just over the past 150 years, radical groups. I'll just say that phrase. Radical groups really have been chipping away at the block of the republic.
Oh, I agree, but just reading so much history, that tends to be nothing new. There's always been sort of an aristocracy that rules everybody, and sometimes that control needs to be taken from them. Just reading Adams's, the first volume of his, major treatise, he went through country after country, and you can actually see the same things happen over and over again, where a certain group of people rose up, and then they sort of take it over, or they take over the executive power, and then they sort of leave the people out. And that's what we have to be cautious about. And that's one of the basics of the book. I want people to realize that the power is still within them to change things, especially, changing who is elected, especially my chapter on the consent of the governed, where they can change the membership of the legislature. They can change what's going on. That's still true.
Well, I mean, would you agree that we are a republic, but we act more like a democracy? Well, the government itself acts more like a democracy would with the majority rule.
Well, majority rule, yes and no. Majority rule is still the case. It has to be the case in the legislature. We put all these people into the legislature, and we have two bodies, and we have to, pass a bill in one, and then we have to send it to a whole completely different set of people and have it passed again, and then we have to send it to a third person to sign, and all that's a check. But I disagree. I mean, a lot of people refer to our government as a democracy, and it is not, because we're still a government of laws, and the people still are involved. But I know what you're getting at. I mean, do the people still have power? And a lot of it has been shipped away, like you said.
Right.
Right. That's exactly what my fears are too. That the people might really not have the power they think they do, and I'm saying that carefully, because it appears that when it's being taken, there's really not much you could do about it. So laws are being changed rather quickly on an arguable scale.
I think an important fact here, an important point, really is, and you said it on page 3 of your book, basically, and I'm just going to paraphrase it, a more rational definition of a republic. You stated basically that, a government where all men, rich, poor, magistrates, subjects, etc., they're equally subject to laws. And
Right.
so that means that any law is going to apply to a statesman, or as well as it would apply to a serf or a peasant or whatever. That clearly has been twisted and warped and molded into what what an aristocracy would do, like you said.
Oh, absolutely. You're absolutely right there.
Yeah. And that's a slippery slope. It really is.
You know what I found? You know what I found interesting, Will, is I was watching an interview, and it was Chuck Missler talking. He was talking with Baron von Habsburg. Now everybody knows the Habsburgs. They had the Spear of Destiny when Hitler came into Austria, and basically, that was one of the first places he went, was the Habsburg Museum. But Baron von Habsburg had said to him, the ignorance of the American people was staggering. And Chuck's like, I knew what he was talking about, because Europeans were more familiar with what's going on over here than Americans seem to be familiar with what's going on here. And he goes, but he also says, the concentration of power in America is frightening. So even somewhere in the halls of the aristocracy of Europe, they kind of see things as being kind of run by, a small circle, should we say?
Oh, right. I agree. And that's, unfortunately, that's always been the case. Which is, and to educate the people, that's one of the reasons I wrote the book, just to give people a view of what the ideal is, and to, move from there to keep watch on those they have in power, if possible, get rid of as many of them as possible, and switch them even for a couple of years, and if you can.
Now, I was familiar with, during my constitutional studies, and I had parents that were into this stuff, so. But I was under the impression that Adams and TJ, basically by the end of their lives, had realized that the way they had set everything up wasn't the way that it's going. But they were hoping that the people would realize that and basically right the ship.
I don't know about that. I never read anything of that. They didn't think it was working up. I know they say the Electoral College didn't work out exactly as they intended, but I think the whole government was functioning as at least Adams intended, because he pretty much designed almost the whole thing based on. Go ahead.
That's funny, since we still squabble about the Electoral College.
Right, yeah, that's true.
Right.
I was thinking, a lot of the people wanted George Washington to run for a third. They wanted him to be, more or less, almost a dictator, really.
A king or a monarch, right?
He was loved so much, and he was the one that said no. I'm not running a third term, and I think that was very important for our story, our history, and at the same time, with what Dave's saying, I do know what you're talking about, Dave. I've read somewhere that there was, but you got to also understand that all of these men who built our government, who wrote these documents, these precious documents, really, they all had lived through the colonial version and been under the king's rule, or whatever it may be, and that in itself, I guess what I'm trying to say is they basically had a huge endeavor to I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I lost my thought, to be honest.
Hey, a lot of those guys were hunted down after the Revolutionary War by the Brits and were killed, and entire families killed and houses torched. So a lot of those guys didn't get off very easy. So.
Right. Well, you also have to keep in mind that even in their minds, republicanism or Republican governments, they were dangerous as well, because they never really lasted. And John Adams, in his thoughts on government, pretty much said, we can do this thing if we do it right. We can, separate the legislature into three parts, and then separate the executive from the legislative and the judicial. If we do it that way, and the states pushing against all of those, and the people checking the government, we can make this republic last a long time, longer than any other republic that ever existed.
Yeah, there's still such a long way to go.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just
we tear
apart each word now.
Will, how come they didn't make this a democracy? Can you explain it to the listeners, the difference between a republic and a democracy?
Please.
Yes, a democracy is where the people all gather in one location and make laws for themselves. That's the actual definition of a democracy, as opposed to a republic where the people delegate their authority to a smaller group of people, which we call a legislature. Also, a republic is a government of law, where a democracy is a government of men. It's majority rule. So you can have even if you had just a small town that gathered, all the people in that small town gathered together, that would be democracy. But it would not be a government of law because the majority would rule. That's the basics. And a republic can govern a large area, where a democracy can only govern in a smaller area where all the people can gather in one location. When the people delegate their authority to a legislature or to a smaller group, it ceases to be a democracy and becomes a republic. Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does.
Okay.
I was thinking, what do you think the reason is that many world leaders promote the spread of democracy rather than, like, just for an example, when we went into Iraq and we helped them build a democracy, do you think that was done? I mean, I'm just saying, do you think that it's possible that was done for the purpose of it actually failing? Because history has really shown that democracies do not last.
We're right. I've tried to figure that out. And one of the reasons I wrote this book actually was because constantly politicians and people in government or all over the world keep using the word democracy. It always got under my skin.
We know.
I think when people use the word democracy, I think they really mean self-government, meaning government without a king or government without a dictator, meaning we govern
Or they
ourselves.
could just vote.
Well,
Right.
I agree with you that people think that, but these world leaders that do it, they have a purpose, and
Right,
they
I
know the
think
difference, and that's the problem.
Yeah, something happened along. I think like President Wilson was always making the world safe for democracy. Something happened where the republicanism and the words Republican government, some people I think wanted those to not be remembered anymore, because even looking at the words, you can see what it's all about. Eventually you get to the law and rule by law, where democracy tends to be ruled by men. And I think in general, leaders like that, they like to rule as opposed to the people governing themselves.
And perhaps it's easier to rule when there's an element of fear and instability.
Absolutely, yeah. You can see that thread running through history. So that it doesn't surprise me that they constantly use that word, and Republican government has sort of fallen off. That's why I subtitled the book "Illuminating Republican Government," so bringing that to light once again.
Well, I'm glad you wrote this book when you did, because we are in a real crossroads right now, as a country, as a culture, I feel, and the way things are going, it's scary where the direction we're going. But I think it's important that people understand what a republic is and what the original intentions were. I'm glad you wrote the book.
William, do you have any other messages that you were hoping your readers would get out of your book?
Not really. I just want the people to realize what their government is all about, what a republic is, because the definitions of a republic have been very varied. In fact, when I started just researching, they were all over the place. Even the American founders had different definitions of republics. And it happened to be that Adams sort of boiled it down to the basics. So it's not, I would just like the people to realize what the government is all about. And that's why I just wanted a quick, concise, cheap book that won't take up too much of their time. And then they'll pretty much have all they need to know that maybe they didn't learn in school.
Well, would you mind, since we're there, can you tell everyone the preferred websites to go to purchase your book?
There's links on my website, which is this.
And we'll have them posted as well with the archive of the show, too.
Okay, thank you. My website is thisrepublic.net, but you can also go to Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, iTunes. The book's name is This Republic. The subtitle is Illuminating Republican Government. But if the easiest way is just go to my website, thisrepublic.net, and there's a link for everything right there.
Yeah, that is a great webpage. You got everything on there.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it was well done. I also did appreciate your use of John Adams quotes and a good selection of them.
Well, that was part of the reasoning too, because I'm not a prolific writer. What my idea was, okay, I can I knew all these quotes, and then I found many more in my research. Like, it would be great to just put these quotes in a book in context and sort of explain them, explain
Exactly.
going through them and explain coming out of them. So that, if I just created a book with quotes, who would read it and who would understand exactly what was going on around them?
No,
I'm going to sort of tell a story.
I really enjoyed the way you did that. Yeah.
Thank
so
you.
I was gonna ask you if you had already had 24 or 3 dozen of these quotes already drilled into your head. Or
I have one actually.
That's
My
pretty
favorite
cool.
one is John Adams. He said, "Thanks to God that He gave me the stubbornness when I know I'm right."
Oh, that's one of my favorites. I love that one too.
Yeah,
Yeah, you really did mix it up pretty good. I like the whole body of the work.
that one speaks to me.
Do you have any other works in the progress? Are you thinking about throwing anything else together?
I have one project sort of bubbling around in my head right now. It's just sort of in the half research stage. I'm thinking about comparing, the causes of the revolution as they're listed in the Declaration of Independence, and then contrasting those with how we resolved all those issues, how we put safeguards in the Constitution to prevent anything like that from happening again. That's just sort of what I'm thinking about right now. I also want to republish John Quincy Adams's essays he wrote in the 1790s.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah,
that would be, because you are from such a historic area too for this for the founding father story.
Right. I was born in Boston.
Okay.
So it's I don't know if that led to me getting into history, or if it was just the perfect place to be born, since I love history.
Were you getting to do all the tours when you were young in Boston? Is that something you did, or was that just reserved for tourists?
No, I mean, here and there we went to things in school and stuff like that, but my family wasn't really into that type of thing. I was pretty much the one that went to these things on my own and read about them, and then all of a sudden I wanted to visit them, and there's just so many that are close by within, sometimes 10 minutes, sometimes 40 minutes. I can go to Lexington and Concord in half an hour. So it's really easy to get to for me.
That's pretty cool. I would have enjoyed that when I was younger. I probably would have took full advantage of it. But that was how nerdy I was,
Well, South Carolina, there's tons of history down there too, aren't there?
Yeah, there is. I'm originally from New York myself.
Oh.
And so I'm still sort of, we're supposed to be arch enemies, you and I.
But we're all colonies together, so I
agreed. But I left New York, and I won't be returning there. The Northeast was getting a little tough for my stubborn ways.
Well, it's too expensive. The taxes are always high. I know what you're talking about.
You are not kidding, buddy. Goodness, especially coming down here. This is very low property taxes around here. Just a different world, man. But the history here in South Carolina, I thought I was familiar with it, but I really only knew the basic stories of the battles, battles and dates, and that's about it. But I'm glad I'm getting to learn it down here. It's all very interesting, because a lot of Revolutionary War action was taken down through here too, and it's a fascinating story, man.
I grew up right outside of Washington Crossings, and we always comment that, Washington Crossings has a pretty small visitor center and has a really big park, but there's nothing for the importance of that site for the Revolutionary War was huge. Yet there seems to be hardly any hubbub going on down there. We have the Washington Crossings every winter. The guys get into the little boats
sure.
and do that, and that's kind of cool. But
do they still do that?
It doesn't really get a lot of play, and we always wonder whether they still teach it in school or not.
Do they still reenact the crossing every year?
Oh yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, my mom and I went last year, and they draw a really good crowd, and everybody's rowdy, and providing there's no ice or anything to waffle them,
right.
They cruise across.
Does the river even freeze anymore?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Are you kidding with this winter?
Wow, man, that's
I'm
fantastic.
surprised the Amazon didn't freeze this winter.
Well, one more time, we're gonna wrap it up here, William. I really do appreciate you coming on the program. I want to tell everyone.
Thank you very much for having me on.
anytime. I hope you'll keep in touch with us.
I
And,
will. When my next project comes out, I'll let you know what's going on with it.
And everyone,
Awesome.
I'd like you to find William Butt's page at thisrepublic.net /home_page.hotmail HTML. Once again, man, I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much for your
All right,
time.
thanks a lot, guys.
And thanks
I
for the
appreciate
work,
it.
man.
Thanks, Will.
Keep up
Good
the
luck
good
with
work.
the book, Will.
Oh, thanks. All right, have a good night, guys.
You too, Will.
Excellent story. Excellent story. He was a very, very kind gentleman, and he got me his book ASAP, and I'm sure he will do for anyone else. If you're interested in his book, please check it out. You can find it on his homepage or even on Amazon. We just wanted to talk for a little bit more. We do have a second guest coming on. His name's Bob Schroeder on the top of the hour here, and there's going to be a little UFO discussion, little bit between possible correlation between modern day physics and UFOs. I know this idea has been put forth before. Dave, I've heard quite a few theories with UFOs.
Oh, I've heard them all.
You might be the one who has heard every single one of them. I've heard a lot of them, and I have to be honest with you. The more I'm hearing, the less I'm finding myself lost in the forest. You know.
There's
you know,
a lot
I
of,
don't want to. It's hard to point fingers, right, and say
lot of
this is right
good
and that's
minds.
wrong. But yeah, that's how I have to look at it. There's a lot of credible people where they've, one degree or another, have made great accomplishments, and their name holds value. And sometimes this happens between two people that have completely different theories altogether. You know what I mean? Just and I just. I really wonder if in my lifetime if I'm ever gonna hear anything worthwhile to an acceptance of how and why UFOs may or may not be here. Sometimes people have me convinced that we've been visited, some an interaction visitation, and then other times I'm just not too sure. Also, good anti-media and propaganda is, it's you question everything. That's really what it boils down to.
and you have to. I mean, you really have to have a critical mind, and you have to realize that there are a lot of other phenomena that mimic the same stuff that UFOs do, maybe in a different characteristic. And there's a lot of great, like I said, a lot of great minds have been through this, and they all realize the correlation. It's funny because I was in a Facebook page, I don't know, maybe a few months back, but I don't know, I think maybe I had put it out, or somebody had put it out, are UFOs and paranormal stuff the same? And you even had guys from MUFON, and they were all saying, oh no, it's totally entirely different thing, when guys who've been doing it for a long time, or like, the Jacques Valleys and the John Keels and those types, but they all, D. Scott Rogo, all those guys and the parapsychologists are all saying, hey, this is all associated phenomena, and it is. So, but it's funny is most people were separating it, not realizing that it has more correlation points than they're even aware of. So, I have a funny feeling we're not going to find out what the big deal is, because I think this has been going on a long time, because, it blips in and blips out of our and everybody else's, time span. So it'll be interesting to see how it maybe finally manifests itself. But
well, let me ask you this then: if there is interaction, right? Let's say the American government has interaction, or recently has. Why not go public?
Well,
I mean, is it between nations, or is it because just fear of what people fear that people can't handle this sort of information?
I don't think that I don't think it's what everybody is presenting it to be to start out with. I mean, most of the real researchers got off the extraterrestrial hypothesis, decades ago, and everybody's kind of in the interdimensional thing. Everybody's talking multiverses and and basically this is a matrix of some sort, and it's an informational matrix, and you get a lot of that type of stuff. The holographic universe, which is kind of the camp I'm in, but there's more going on, I think, than people really have a grip on, and how it's going to play out, nobody really knows. But I think that's why I went to the ancient texts. So along with the ton of UFO history and people, actually hanging out with these people and stuff like that, and doing the ancient texts, one thing I've come to realize, and that is, if you hang out with the Bible scholars or the Bible crowd in excess, you'll think that Jesus is coming back any second, which I'm more inclined to believe than if you hang out with the UFO crowd. They think these things are going to land any second. Mm-hmm. So it depends on what you're immersed in, and when you take a step out of that and regain perspective, you realize that you have to really look at this critical and put yourself off from the crowd, because before too long you'll start buying what they're selling. So.
It's funny, Dave. I was talking to a friend of mine up here in Pine Bush who grew up, lived here his whole life, and we were talking about God, and we were talking about UFOs, and he said to me, I believe in UFOs a hell of a lot more than I believe in God, because I've seen them square and dead in my face my whole childhood. I said, well, that's your take on it. Some people do. Some people, like you said, it depends on the crowd you're in, and if you hang out with one long enough, you're gonna gravitate towards one belief system or another. But I don't know. My opinion really is that we're not getting the answer because somebody has a damn good reason to not tell us. Somebody knows.
That's what Valet's saying. He goes, this is whatever these things are, they're part of a control system, because they come in and they basically change our thinking, and whether they're changing it for the good or for the bad seems to be the squash point. And if you go to the ancient texts, they're saying that these things are depending on whether you can discern who's who and what's what. Some of this stuff isn't really good, and some of it can be, but you have to actually be aware of, again, who's who and what's what, because you get it with a lot of these channelers and a lot of these other, like Ouija board and all these other type groups where they don't really know what they're doing. They open up something comes in, and then they're being freaked out because now there's an entity or something in their house, and it's, messing with people. So, there's a lot more going on around this than most people really understand, and it can go bad very quickly.
I suppose so. I know it's just a very difficult thing. Just the UFO topic is very difficult. There's a lot of it's very territorial, but
just as a little idiom, Joe. Here's one of these things in UFO ancient text study that you get to come to realize is, like, all the old contactees and even some of the newer contactees stuff. A lot of the Love and Light group and Galactic Federation of Light and all that nonsense is they're always like ripping off the Holy Bible, the Christian Judeo-Christian Bible, all of them, and they all take excerpts out of it. They twist it to their own the things. But it's funny how they never seem to use Buddhist texts. They never seem to use any other religion's text, but they always seem to use that one text. Yeah. And when I say to people, I'm just like, it's got nothing to do with religion and UFOs, but here's a flag. Here's a correlation. There's a reason why whatever these things are, they seem to be going after this one text, solo. They're looking at this one only, and they're bending it to whatever their little trip is, which is generally not the biblical narrative. So that tells us something. It tells us that whatever these things are, they seem to have a hard spot for that particular book. So. But these are things you have to get comfortable with, because they can mess with your belief system, and it can mess with your research. And I'm by and large, I'm a practicing Christian. It's hard to be a biblical text scholar and not.
Yeah,
but you have to remove yourself from that and say, all right, well, we have something here. Or how come every time in those early days you always found they'd stumble on these guys and they'd be wrenching on the UFO or on their flying saucer? And you're like, the big question comes out, well, if these guys can fly halfway across the universe, why are they always fixing their stuff when they get here? and that even goes back into like the 1800s when they have these, like dirigibles before dirigibles came out, those type of things. They'd always be wrenched on them, and they'd always need water or some sort of nonsense. But you're like, well, if they can come all the way across the universe, why are they always fixing? Why are they always got to do repairs on their stuff? Socorro, New Mexico with Ronnie Zamora, same thing. They're out messing around with the UFO. So, what do we actually have?
It's just tough for me to mix UFOs and religion. It's just not for me to accept it, but it's just really hard, man, because the Judeo-Christian book has been changed so many times, man, and when I go back,
there's a 1700-year leap.
It's really pieced together from so many different things,
Who has a 1700-year leap on all groups on the study of crazy phenomena? It's the Catholic Church. They've had friars. I mean, you can go through half of Vallet's book and half the weird books out there, and probably easy half of the information contained happens around, just Christian churches or friars and Catholic churches. Somebody's floating down from the sky or something like that. But it's all being reported to all the little bishops and all the little clerks, of the church. And the church has been gathering all this information. And you'll get people and you'll give them that information. They're like, well, the Vatican Church is corrupt. And it's just like, well, it's got nothing to do with them being corrupt. It's got everything to do with the fact that they've been collecting information on this whatever these weird things floating around in the sky is for a very long time. So we're not getting any of that information, mind you, but some of that does squeak out in various little towns, chronicles that they keep in their own storage. But
they have some books.
These religious groups have a lot of information on this type of stuff because they're the ones everybody's been handing it to. Whether it's exorcisms or ghosts or fairies or goblins or UFOs or aliens, it's always boom. What do we do? And they go to the Catholic Church. So it's intertwined even down to that level. So
right. I got such a tough one anytime the Vatican Library comes up.
We'd all love to get a crack at it.
Oh my goodness, man! But it's they hold their own downfall. Is really all I have to say.
It was funny, Joe, is that remember the book that came out, a few years back, but it was Nostradamus's. It was a book that Nostradamus had done.
It's lost, probable lost book.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But the ink mark on the top of it said that came from the Vatican Library. So somewhere along the line, either somebody smuggled that out or that was purged from their library. Right. And that's a pretty heavy-duty book, if you're understanding the symbolism in it.
Absolutely. It sure as hell is. I could understand how it just kind of got mixed in with some other things and was heading to an auction, because if only one person really kind of knew about it and smuggled it out in one degree or another, it's not like everyone would say, oh, yeah, we knew he had that. We were looking for it. It's that made it out of the Vatican Library. Few things have.
Yeah, especially when it has pictures of like the Pope standing there getting, killed. Stuff like that. You're like, I think they maybe wanted that book.
Yeah, they really did. And there's a few that people are writing on. A few of the digitalized how the Vatican published something like 800 of these papers so far of their documents, and there's people just going through them as fast as they can, and if they're unpublished in any degree, they're publishing them or they're revisiting a lot of them. But the church is really saying that they're gonna have all of those books digitally scanned and up for public viewing, every one of them within 40 years.
Huh.
Of course, 40 years. It's not like it's a significant number or anything, but I'm not trying to start anything.
Did we get the Fatima thing, the answer to the last Fatima thing yet?
But that's what it is. Is we really don't know. They're not going to tell you the title of anything, and they're not uploaded in any order. No Dewey Decimal System here. It's just like document 4. Document
really?
38. Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about that on
you
an
can't
earlier
search
show.
anything. You just have to know what you're looking for.
That bothers me, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine they'd do it that half-assed.
Why would they bother a 40-year endeavor?
Because
and
the
not do it
average
organized?
person is just going to randomly pick something to read, and just because it's scanned doesn't mean it's in English. You know.
Exactly.
So a lot of these are going to be in Old Greek or in Hebrew. I'd love to see some in Old Hebrew, but not likely. Folks, hang in there. We have some news at the top of the hour from Dave and Tim and Joe. We'll be right back. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Researchers Radio Live. I am Joe K. Dave Sinet's here. Tim C is here. And we were just chatting it up, doing some UFO chat, some theoretical chat, possible correlation between the two. And that's an argument that can be told in 100 different degrees, maybe even 1,000. So I'm going to just let that one slide right by. Tim, what's happening, brother?
Before the break, Patrick from the chat room.
My man Patrick English?
That's right.
Yeah.
He had made a comment that digitizing the Vatican Library has him very suspicious, and I agree with you, Patrick.
Yes.
Very much so.
I agree with both of you. Of course, in regards to that, they did say that they had what was the inspiration for the Vatican deciding to release these and put them online is they said they're going to put them all online because they have nothing to hide. So they're all going to come out. However, there are a couple questionable books, Tim, as you know, and that I would really like to get my hands on. That would be just a nail in the coffin, per se, on a few theories that I really need a couple books from that Vatican Library, and I know I can't get them. And what really drives me crazy is you never get to see any pictures of it, of the library inside or anything. And just a few months ago, our current Pope was photographed inside the library, and he was reading one of the books that I would very much like to have. He wasn't reading it. I'm sure it was just a photo op. They had this particular book opened, and he was standing there looking at it. I don't know if he was reading it.
Apparently there's 82,000 manuscripts.
Buddy. Right.
And they're going to do like batches of them, and the first batch should be done by the end of the year and available online.
Okay.
Which is interesting. I guess we'll follow that story.
Anyone here in America, I'd be lucky if there's 1% in English that are legible, understandable. For all I know, they're in good shape. Not likely, but they really do have a good collection. There are a few other private libraries that are extensive. I mean, there's obviously some where people just have a lot of books, but there really are a few incredible libraries out there in private hands. And Tim, you and I were just talking about it earlier today, how in the 15th century, and one of the guys Tim and I have been working on, Marsilio Ficino, an old Hermetic master, he's the guy responsible for giving us the works of Plato that we have today. He's the one who brought the old stories of Plato and many other authors of the likes. He's the one who brought them from antiquity, from Old Greek into Latin at the time. And it was no big deal for him because he was an absolute master at Greek because that's what he spoke. He was from Constantinople, so the dude spoke Greek. But what we were talking about, Tim, if you recall, was that there's the documents floating around, and they're attainable, and you could get them and read them. That his life had become in jeopardy for the Inquisition, and it was pertained to. There was actually a whole other translation of the complete works of Plato, not just any specific book. That all of the books from Plato had an altogether different meaning and different stories, and the story that ended up of all the Plato works, the ones that we have today are the ones that ended up being Vatican approved, and that's a dead cold hard fact. You might not find it on Wikipedia. However, if you need proof of this, I'll be more than happy to provide these links. I don't really depend on Wikipedia for much. But,
so basically, the ultimate editor of all time, all recorded history is the Vatican, more or less. They've pretty much edited it.
Since the year 500, for the most part, yeah. I mean, it's no secret the book burnings, for goodness sake. If they didn't like if they didn't like what you were saying and it put things in jeopardy, this was the purpose of the Inquisition, you know. And there was many book burnings. I mean, it's not a forgotten art. They still do this today, you know. Maybe not the same people, but book burnings are something that definitely takes place every time there's some sort of coup or overthrow or just a changing of hands. You know, I don't know what people are going to do in 20 years from now when all books are digitalized. You know, people are just going to be burning iPads. but also, you know,
burning parties.
There's also a few people throwing around the idea that they have big fears that as soon as, you know, 20 years from now when all the books are digitalized, that, you know, actually really reading a hard copy book is, you know, they're more of decorations. And this particular person I was speaking to, he was suggesting that, you know, in 20 years' time, it'll be quite simple to just edit whatever's chosen, you know, if one had the power. You know, if everything's digitalized, it's just
that much easier.
I suppose it's easier, but, you know, it's not like everything's just on one site, book-wise. But I see where he's coming from, but I guess that's also there's flip side to all tech. What's that, Dave?
I still like the tactile sense of a book. You know?
Definitely.
Yeah. There really is a big difference, in my opinion. I really, truly wish I had more time to be in the books right now. I haven't been, but I'd like to. But
books have history. And
I got 3 going any given time.
Oh, man, I need to do it again. It's been a few days since I've actually even been in anything, but I have a few started, and I really hate it when that happens because, I mean, I take notes on things, but you kind of forget what you already read every time. At least I do. Every time I return to a book, I have to try to just consume these things.
Or dog ear them. That's what I do. Wherever there's dog ear, there's something important.
There's a few books I've attempted to finish like 5 times, and then either the sky falls on my head and you know, life happens and you can't, you know, you don't have the time, or something else happens and it's just like, when am I going to finish this stinking book? But
do you say stinking?
I did, yes.
It's like a slow slog.
Do you really say that?
Oh, I always do.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite words.
Very good, very good.
We are on air, you know.
I could totally see you saying stinking all the time. It's too funny, man. I've had a problem lately with the books I've been reading. Is if I can't stay in a man, I don't get it all, and the whole purpose of reading them lately really is for the, you know, studying reasons. But I haven't read a good old fashioned story in a while. But
The hardest book I've ever
I really
tried
want
to
to.
finish reading, and this is one that I still haven't finished, is Origin of a Species by Charles Darwin. That is the most boring book you could ever try to. Don't try to read it. I'm not telling you don't read it, but
I'm horribly wrong.
Awful. It's good for the pictures. You know, you can flip through it, but
Man, he missed on a few things, but I give him a lot of credit because, I mean, even still today, this is still a very hot topic, the origin of creation and evolution.
Yeah, and I think the more they get into the DNA studies, you know, a lot of things have become prevalent at this point in the game.
I don't know.
You get a lot of these scientists, and they're like, "There's no way this genome could have been, you know, created within the 4.5 million years." And then you start getting into all the little fun debates, you know.
Yeah.
You got extraterrestrials and shit like that.
Man, the breakthroughs going on with DNA are fantastic, but disappointing at the same time lately, because it seems that you know what? If a crime has been committed, the DNA experts are everywhere. But when it comes to a key important historical site or testing, it's the most ridiculous testings that go on. They're so criticized. You know, now one scientist will agree on another one on any DNA study right now. I think no one. You know what? I honestly, truly think no one wants to commit to anything at this point in the science game. No one wants to say this is what I believe to be a fact, and I'm going to go ahead and prove it. I think they're
sounds
all
a lot like a doctor's diagnosis.
They're all just kind of want to be on the winning team, but no one's taking the reins.
Well, Joe, there's that one woman. There's that one woman on like the mysterious origins of man or something like that. But she was down in South America somewhere, and she had found some really old stuff, and I guess she had it carbon dated, and she was like, you know, I just want to find out what we're dealing with here. And it was like 144,000 or something crazy years old, and they had all kinds of labs, you know, confirm and reconfirm it. But the problem was that they could make a jump from like 12,000 to 14,000, but that like totally blew the whole thing. So she wrote her papers up, and basically they just blackballed this poor woman so badly that I don't even think she works within the field anymore. So that's what happens if you bring about radical stuff that even the labs are saying is valid. So the dogma in science is just as bad as the dogma anywhere else. Let's face it.
That's so disappointing to hear.
But Joe, you know, it's you do it with the Dürer paintings and stuff like that. I mean, at some point in the game, you could probably look at any given painting, and you can suss out if they used, you know, the sacred geometry. But the thing is that you got places, you know, guys are like, oh no, come on, Joe. You know, only later to find out, especially with your, you know, your latest findings, that hey, you know, there's something to this. So, you know, sometimes you have to leave
you're
the
right, because in that specific case, it was, you know, the ones who reacted the hardest, because, you know, like in my case, and I'll use it as the example. These places, these museums have exhibits and have had events and sell books telling a particular story. You know, it's almost that. Just like in anything else, they become very protective of their nest egg, their, you know, the money maker, and they forget about what's the truth. I mean, I just want to get the truth, man, every day, just no matter what it is.
Hey, I had Robert Schock here for my last conference, and he stayed at my place. And one of my big questions to him, because we actually got to really sit down and rap about a lot of stuff. I was just like, how bad did the academic community go after you when you did your whole Sphinx was surrounded by water and it's water erosion, you know, paper? And he was just like, good thing I had tenure, because they just waffled me from all sides, just trying to unseat me and put me down. So, I mean, the academics, the guys who stick their necks out in academics really take a hammering, because if their new model contradicts the present model, which is, you know, most of the time is seriously flawed, all of a sudden, you know, you got a problem. So, you know, again, the dogma is just as bad in science as it is anywhere else.
No. there was so many things I want to get into, but I don't want to. I don't want to really give up anything I'm working on at the moment. But I might have to, because folks, I'm going to have to tell you at home, and wherever you might be, you all can't really be at home. Our guest for the second hour is unable to make it to the program.
Duh.
Don't worry, everybody. We're all not going to leave on you. We're going to be right here. I could give them I could give everyone the silent treatment, but that doesn't work out. Oh, everyone, please, as a reminder, turn on Animal Planet, please. Yes.
Joe, I've been seeing the North Carolina UFO page down there lighting up this week. So evidently, a lot of people other than yourself are starting to see the.
I'm trying. You know what? I'm trying to not be the one to post anything. I'm trying that route right now, because it was a lot of. How come it's just you? When I would say, well, I do communicate with a lot of people, but not everyone has time or the desire, really. A lot of them say, yeah, you should really come here and see what I see, but I'm not interested in buying a camera. So there's a Facebook page of the Myrtle Beach UFOs, the group, and I didn't start it; someone else started it, and I am a member of the group. But it's really cool because it's here in my area, obviously. And when I see that group lighting up and people saying, I'm in this town and I see things looking over this way and vice versa from other towns, it's pretty cool because, I'm able to hop outside and see if, I could see anything going on, and I usually can't. So, but there's many towns writing in on this thing that are 30 miles away, and if they're really not that high up in the sky, I don't have that much of a chance. But Dave, lately, man, in my personal opinion, in the last few months, I've really been leaning to, with those Carolina Bays we had spoken about. I really thought that I've been getting the idea that when there's a lot of disturbances going on with them, that these lights appear over them, because that area, the direction I looked, there was a lot going on there, and I'm pretty much seeing the same thing with where these other people are reporting them, the different towns. It seems like new developments are just pushing into that little buffer zone of the federally protected Carolina Bays. So I'm just really interested in it. It's really strange, man, and I wish I could give answers to some of these people. Like, everyone asks the same questions, but it all boils down to, I've asked the same questions as you folks, and I just have more questions,
It's funny you should say that, Joe, because a couple summers ago, I actually started looking up fairly local areas, and Central Jersey evidently had a lot of them where ghost lights were seen. They'd have stories of ghost lights are in these woods, this, that, and the other. Okay. And I'd gotten one from a Pennsylvania area, and so I went out there, and it was very well known, blah, 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 and they had built a new development over it. So I was talking to people around the area, and nobody had seen these lights. So I was wondering, my question basically was nonchalantly was to find out whether, because there was woods or whatever there, evidently these things were active for a very long time, maybe 100 years, at a clip. But since these people were there, none of that phenomena seemed to manifest itself there. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
That is, man, because, when I got to thinking about it, it always brings me back to that older gentleman who's in his 80s, and he said he first started seeing them when his family came to the area in the late 1930s, and how he'd been seeing the same thing, whether he's seen the same thing or me, I can't confirm. I was never with him, but we're describing the same thing, and he said what he saw in the 30s he sees today. And it's real crazy for me. And it was two things he said that always stick out to me. Is one is he sees them over water towers, the local water towers for drinking water. And secondly, he said what the reason he came into town at this time was his father was working on the intercoastal waterway that's here on the southeast coast, mostly in Florida. But we have it through our area here too, and that intercoastal goes through this Carolina Bay a little bit, through this Carolina Bay field. So I was wondering, this is what got me wondering if there was, disturbances then that set things off, whatever it may be, I know there's strange elements within these bays. There's strange plants. I'm pretty sure down here, I don't know about where else in the country, but I know down here you could only find Venus flytraps inside these craters, these
really
Carolina bays. Yeah. With the things that there's things that grow inside the Carolina bays that don't grow outside the Carolina bays, and it could be it could be consistent throughout the whole state, just like that.
I thought Venus flytraps were more tropical.
It's really weird, man. It's hard to describe. It really is. It's hard to describe.
How big do those things get there?
Well, some of them are really big. There are some that are actually quite large, but most of them, I would say, on the average, might be 100 to 200 yards across.
Not. I was talking about the Venus flytraps.
So am I. They just like a foot. They get like a foot tall.
That's pretty big, because the ones I see in the store up here are these tiny little. I mean, I'm in New York, obviously.
We used to love them when we were kids, man. Feed them hamburger and stuff.
But that's the only place you can find them around here. I don't know where else they grow.
A friend of mine sent me a really good video. It's a tiny little clip of a Venus flytrap biting on a joint.
Nice.
That's funny.
Well, you do know, Joe, that in UFO lore, that they say that Aleister Crowley opened up a portal, and this being came through. And if you go online and Google Aleister Crowley's alien or something to that effect, you'll see the being, and it kind of looks like the grays the UFO people talk about. But some people say that during that time that they weren't able to close the portal, so stuff is still coming in. So you have 1930s, and that's about the same time Crowley was doing this stuff. So
yeah, Crowley, he's
I'm going to make a leap on that.
Yeah.
There's been so many claims about that, man.
Yeah, I don't know where to begin.
Yeah, really. My mind's going in 4 different directions, but I'm sure. Let's just say he wasn't involved in some of the nasty crap that.
I liked his Hermetic works.
Well, that's the thing. He was part of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Didn't they kick him out? I don't know if that's true or not.
It's just tough for me. You know how I am. I want the original text. I don't. I know, right? I mean, interpretations are great, and that's kind of what he was doing. But a lot of mixing stories. He was just trying to he was a teacher, right? He was trying to teach people a particular understanding that he acquired. But I just want the books he had. You know what I mean?
I know. A lot of people do say that he messed around with some dark stuff. And,
right.
And that's
right. Well, I'll tell you.
He broke in a different direction.
I'll tell you guys, and these Marsilio Ficino books I've been reading, the DeVita, the 3 books on life, they're really hard to come by. Number one, but I read the first book just fine and well, and it was pretty cool. It was a really good book, and I've read most of the 3rd book, and that's the one I really want to get back to. But I read the 2nd book, and it's a Hermetic book, Hermetic/alchemy book, and I'll tell you, man, I was really blown away what was written in that book. It's no wonder the Inquisition was on his butt and hot. I mean, my goodness. But it's, wow, man. Wow. Just about, consuming this, making this and consuming this every 4 days. And fresh blood straight from the arm of young people, and a lot of recipes, and
Oh yeah.
oh my goodness. And I said, man, this is the same dude that gave us Plato, but it was written for a specific person. And what's interesting was the book too, this book I'm talking about, it was that whole book is written on how to attain living a long life, but not just in years, but in your mentality, to have wisdom and alert and just live and think longer.
Do you think that maybe part of it was just misread, and maybe he didn't actually mean consume the blood, maybe a form of?
Oh no, he was very specific. He was very specific.
Oh no, that's still said to flourish in some cultures.
Yeah, it was very specific, and he was kind about it. He even said, make sure when you take the blood, you draw the blood from a young child's arm, a willing child. It says,
Oh, that's an easy find.
Well, I mean, it's nice to at least consider instead of, you at least ask yes or no, and you don't just have to do it. But obviously, it went through. It would see. It's tough to say without having the book right here in front of me, because it wasn't just that simple. It was fresh blood, maybe 1 pint of the fresh blood, along with these particular spices. It'll tell you each measurement, and it's not just what's in it. It's also the time you make it. It might say to make it on a new moon, or it has to be when certain zodiacs are in particular areas, or the sun's in a particular location. You make certain things at certain times with certain elements, and you apply them at certain times.
He was known as an apothecary also.
Oh, absolutely. Absolute master apothecary. Yeah, actually, he wrote the books of the first, what would be medical laws of the whole Roman Empire.
Yeah, at that time, people would go to an apothecary instead of going to the doctor.
Right, but you went to the apothecary for everything.
Right.
You went for medical supplies. Even artist. Someone,
chemist,
my boy Albert Dürer would have been there, because that's where you're buying your elements and your gems that you would grind up to mix into paint. Alchemists were there.
Apothecaries are still around today, guys.
Yeah, they sure are. And
Europe and South America has them like crazy.
Yeah.
Kind of like our pharmacy to a certain extent.
Yeah, to a certain extent, except using herbs instead of chemicals, right?
Well, actually, they still have these labs, and it was funny because I stumbled on one that's pretty close to me, but I forget what they're called, but they actually mix the compounds there. Like if you need some sort of medication, they actually take the various forms of the medication, crush it up, weigh it out, and do all the mixing there for you, which I thought was kind of far out. It's kind of way old school, but evidently it's something that's still around, and the guy made it sound like they were growing. So I was just like, that's interesting.
That's fantastic. But to this book too, guys, I want to just say on air that I'm not speaking negatively about the book. I think it's an incredible work. However, there were also 100 other ones that were, that sounded really nice. Like I have to say, that was kind of the worst sounding one. But in a strange way, in the whole order the things are presented, it does kind of, make sense. I could see at the time. I'm not trying to condone anyone trying it. However, the truth is, Dave, I'll tell you, man, when I read book 1, I recorded myself reading it because, as you and I talked, we both like audiobooks while we're driving and such. And so I said, I'm only going to read this one once, and I recorded it, and I put it on YouTube a while ago. And when I read book 2 and recorded it, I probably finished that one like 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, and I won't even put it on YouTube. I'm a little hesitant to even put it on there. I don't know if I'm afraid of people doing things, but I guess people know where to find these that are looking for them anyway. But I just know that specific one, book 2, is good luck at home if you're going to try to find book 2.
Yeah, we're very litigious.
And put it on
putting stuff
YouTube for me.
All the not very bright people out there, or you never know what you run into. So.
Oh man, book 3 is fantastic though. It's a great story. Those books, man, I love these old books. It's too bad when we have these older guys, their bodies of work. We hear like there's 20 books, but we know there used to be 200. And it's too bad because sometimes I enjoy the 20 books and wish I could read 100 more of them. Maybe in the Vatican Library, man. I don't know.
Hey, Joe, just to backtrack a little bit here. You were saying that old guy said he'd see him up near the water tower, the UFOs near the water tower?
Yeah.
I was going to say, there's a, I think he's an old MUFON guy. He may still be a MUFON guy, but his name's Carl Feint. And he put out a book called UFOs in Water. And, I mean, he must have gathered everything. But, I mean, you realize, I mean, even in some of the early Jacques Vallée books and stuff like that, there's a correlation to UFOs and fresh drinking water. And, people have seen them over reservoirs with like little hoses going down into the water, and they hover there for a little bit, and then the hose goes back up and it takes off, stuff like that. But, there seems to be a connection there somewhere.
There's quite a few people around here that, when they tell me about the lights they see, they will say they see them over the water towers as well. It's not just this old guy. It's not the most popular thing I hear, but I hear it like 1 out of 20 people, and it's always the same exact story. I have not seen them over the water towers, but some people I know and trust very well, who have no interest in what they may be at all, have seen them just appear out of nowhere, glowing over a water tower that at the time was really only like 3 blocks away. It wasn't that far at all. So I hear about it a good amount, and there's a good amount of people who speak about the lights involving water in general.
You've taken video. I've seen video on your YouTube channel of little red orbs flowing around in the water, going into the water.
Yeah, but.
Now, see, that I'd like to see, Joe, because I was wondering with our last week's guest, he was talking about, tectonic shifts and plasma being generated through those fissures and maybe, coming up through the ground type stuff. But I was wondering what would be the effect on water on plasma. I would figure water would put that out pretty quick.
If it's plasma,
If it's plasma.
Yeah.
If it's not plasma, then that was kind of my fickle point with last week's guest to a certain extent, is that I can understand what he's saying about the Marfa lights, and that's that makes perfect sense.
With Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But same vein. There's stuff there's that same thing, but I've seen it
he has a friend, a colleague that he did work with, that I guess he is on the study of it being some sort of a bioluminescent, if I'm saying that correctly.
Yeah, right.
It's a form of plasma, is what it boils down to.
But
it would be plasma.
But again, with the heavy pressures or tectonic shifts and stuff like that, some stuff can be generated. So I'm not saying that's not possible. What I'm saying is what we're filming and seeing in a lot of cases acts intelligently, and
yes.
I'm not sure if that can be applied to that same phenomena.
I agree.
Right. Yeah, the argument was played. We discussed that on last week's show, and Mike, what he was saying is that not all of the phenomena can be explained with plasma, but a lot of it can. Some of it can, and I understand that as well. But like you said, Dave, some of the stuff that reacts to whether it's a laser pointer or whatever. Obviously, there's an intelligence there that is not a plasma.
Right, but in the same
I was
degree.
saying last week that the people from Finland and over in that part of the world, they're like the best in plasma physics. And you got Hesselin over there in Norway. I mean, you're right there. You're right there in the right there in their wheelhouse for this type of stuff, and they haven't confirmed that the Hesselin stuff is plasma, and it looks basically like what we have, but if you talk to the locals there in Heslin, they'll say, it floats across the thing, it hovers over the top of the car. I'm not sure if just an organic or inorganic or whatever you want to call it type of plasma does that type of stuff, and it shapes it into different stuff. So I mean, you start to run into problems on some of that stuff.
Plasma. There's more plasma in the universe than there is any other matter, apparently, according to scientists.
Right.
And it reacts to electromagnetic fields. It conducts heat, electricity. I mean, it's got a lot of the makings of something that could react to different, different. Let's just say electricity or heat or I don't know. The morpholites in particular, I can understand being said. Yes, that could be plasma because they don't particularly move as much as as some of the lights that, well, just say, Joe, that you film.
Right, but I could see that because I'm sure at times I've also. It's highly probable I saw some sort of a flare, whether it be from some sort of an aircraft or from the ground. I understand that, just because I saw one thing doesn't mean I haven't seen a few things. But I also say that in defense where, a lot of people might be sure they saw a flare. That doesn't make everything else a flare. The question would be, why is someone dropping these flares like that are absolutely incredible flares, if they are so close to neighborhoods and homes? This is a major tourist destination for the East Coast as well.
Well, there may be something, Joe, with Mike's friend's theory, because in Heslin they put a spectrometer on what is floating around through that valley. I mean, they have a permanent camera up there. I think they're the only university that actually has a UFO camera. But when they did the spectrometer reading on it, it was burning something like Finlandium or something like that. But it was something actually that was indigenous to only that part of the area. So where would you pick that up? You'd pick it up from the ground, from the minerals in the ground.
Right.
So.
Well, and again, we've talked about when we speak about this area with these Carolina Bays, there's an abnormally high level, a very high abnormality in the level of iridium. And the things we use iridium for is for making crucibles for a very high heat. It's an element that has a seriously high melting point. Its conductivity is fantastic. We use it for making spark plugs in race cars.
Glow-in-the-dark watches?
Well, of course, naturally. We use
that's how you could test your. That's how you could test your
spacecraft.
Your radioactive meter is you'd get the old iridium watches and you could stick them near the meter, and the meter would tick off because there was a low amount of radioactivity on those.
Now, iridium is part of the platinum.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, what color does it burn? Doesn't it burn like reddish or orange?
Yeah, I believe it's reddish orange, if I'm not mistaken.
Interesting.
And some of those orbs that you guys do film in that area are just that color.
Yeah,
some of them are other colors too, though.
Right. But
fascinating.
Iridium is it's highly sought after in our all of our high speed aircraft, or it's just very durable. But it's got a lot of good properties, and it's usually only associated with
where meteors hit.
Exactly. It's impacts are where we're gonna really find it, but. Man,
I think that's what you have there, Joe.
It's a superconductor, as a natural element, and I mean we use it for the things UFOs are proposed to do, So it's something I look at, but I don't know what else we'd really be using it for. But there's an awful lot of it around here, and specifically around these bays, and this is where it's all happening, around those bays.
Now, have they said, Joe, that these are meteor impacts? Do they, with the iridium there, you would expect that there'd be meteor impacts. Have they found any meteors? Have they copped to the fact that this is a once upon a time meteor field?
No, there's been at least 100 studies, but there's been at least 10 studies from Ivy League institutions that have done full works. More often than not, you'll get a completely different theory as to what caused it, but none of these papers even suggest that they're hot on the trail. They all come up with the same facts, but as to its creation, there's a lot of different theories that are put forth that sound good, but there's really no factual evidence for its creation. Some say it's water erosion from lots of rains, or a major flood, or from an impact that I believe it would be called strata, is the ejected debris that might have been of a muddy substance that landed there. It's possible, but all of these bays point in the same direction, and it's kind of hard because it could be like 500-mile run of these bays all pointing in the same direction, and you'd really kind of have to go around the whole globe for that to happen.
Joe, I remember when you first talked to me over a year ago about the situation down there, and I looked. The first thing I did is I went on Google Earth and I looked at the area, and if you do look at it, you can clearly see that there is some kind of path to the bays. Like you can see that something went in the similar direction and scattered in that area. Whether it was a solid object or not, it still made an impression.
Yeah, I agree, man. And with the waterway thing, there's a lot of people that live along these waterways. Not doesn't have to be the intercoastal waterway, but a lot of these waterways are creeks, rivers, streams that flow within and around these bays and go through the fields and ultimately end up in the ocean. This is where I would see it. I do have a few bays right around me, but I have one of these waterways. It's a little river. It's called the river because it feeds the ocean, but it's not that big at all. And it kind of flows right by, and that's where I see them over. And so when I hear a lot of stories very similar, and so they make sense to me. And Dave, even our friend Mr. Christopher Bledsoe in North Carolina, his geography is quite similar to mine. And so like the waterway he was on when he and I were speaking, it's very similar to mine per se. Like the waterway that comes by me, one of these large bays is now known as Lake Waccamaw. It's really just one of the larger of the bays that is just a full lake now, and that's the thing that drives the waterway that goes past my house, and that's not too far from him at all, and it's virtually the same thing. So but again, I'm not saying what people see here is what he sees. I don't know that, but in a geography sense, where it's really something to look at. And
we also notice or feel that there's a correlation between them and mineral-rich areas, especially say like radium.
Mm-hmm. And there's also platinum here.
Yeah, for some reason, even in the UK, they've noticed that sometimes they keep finding these orbs floating around these mineral-rich areas as well, and it happens here in the United States as well.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm one of these people in the science field that don't want to put my thumb down and say this is what I think it is, because I'm not trying to hide anything, but I just don't know. But from careful attention and trying to look for patterns, I see two things. It seems to be active when there's new groundbreakings or new developments, or in my case right here in North Myrtle Beach, they just built a very large sporting complex outdoor, maybe like 8 baseball fields, 8 soccer fields, things like that. Really,
Wow.
really big place. But I mean, this thing is tucked away within like 3 or 4 of these craters, and that's where I had been looking for a little while now. That's my one of my secret spots, and but nothing in that area had been disturbed. This is where this thing was built. This is virtually virgin land per se. This land has just not been disturbed at all in that whole area. And so I'm paying close attention. A lot of these people in here that are popping up on the Facebook page there, more often than not, they're in these areas where they're saying, I'm looking over where they're putting in a new development, and it's usually in a very similar geographical position. So it's just something I'm paying close attention to, and when I hear there's a change in the weather in regards to, let's say it's 85 degrees here every day. If they say starting tomorrow it's going to be 15 degrees colder each day, that's the night I want to look, when there's a cold front coming in. That's when I see them the best. So nights like this, it's getting cooler tonight because we have like some sort of a tropical low storm right off our coast. And I guess it might grow to something that would bring a lot of rain and bad weather here. This is something I would look out for. Like if they said that's coming on Thursday, I would hope to see something for a night or two prior to that. And sometimes 2 or 3 nights, as you know, Dave. And the good thing is it's so much that to go full circle with it, I don't have to be the one saying it anymore. Not that I don't mind, but I think people were just getting tired of just hearing me say it. So there's a lot of other people that are just kind of tired of it, in the sense that there's no answers for it. I mean, the news, it's on the news all the time. They don't get answers anymore, but I mean, what else could it be?
It's funny. We have 5 senses as humans, and we interpret what we see, feel, hear, whatever. A certain, we have limits to what we can understand, and I think that through science, we will be able to understand more about our surroundings and what is in between the spaces, between spaces, for a lack of a better way to put it. And I think that once science gets us to a better level where we can have a better understanding of what truly is out there, and like quantum physics, and as we go farther and farther into the reality of our surroundings, perhaps maybe we will be able to get a real answer, Joe.
You think so?
I do.
All right.
I do.
Well, I like to see. I like to see that you have promise, Tim.
I think everybody, at this point in the game, everybody knows that there's the veil out there. And I usually say, our receptor package, our brain, just isn't capable, or for some reason doesn't allow us to see other than what we're seeing. That's when the guys start talking about the holographic universe theory, that if you take, let's say, just an atom from the nucleus to the electron floating around it, and that atom is mostly space, and we're made up of mostly atoms. So technically, we're mostly space. And all we're sensing is our atoms colliding with, say, a table or something like that. But it's a digital information matrix. So if that's actually the case, then we're perceiving things in a way that's not really showing us everything that's around us. And I think when you start using some of those various, lighting wavelengths like night vision and stuff like that, we start revealing some of that stuff that we're not able to see with our eyes that's floating around us all the time.
If we took the full spectrum of light known to the science world and considered it the equator, if it circumnavigated the whole Earth, so if it was the equator figure that whole line going around the world being the known visual spectrum, the human eye can see approximately 1 foot of that line. So there's plenty we cannot see. So I do agree with you there, Dick.
You may remember him. It was Trevor James Constable. Now, Jose Escamilla has him in a few of his earlier films, and I think he maybe just passed away fairly recently. But he used to do all that early photography with infrared, and he used to call them critters. And some of his old black and whites. Now, if you go on Google and Google Trevor James Constable, critters or something like that, you'll see the images, and it looks like giant amoebas floating around in the air. But he would capture some of the craziest stuff, and that was early day stuff. And it's funny because nobody really picked that up. Jose caught on to the infrared part of it, and I think it's UFO Greatest Story Ever Denied. But he actually has two handycams, two exact same handycams, but he made it so one of them will do night shot in the daytime, and he has both pointed up in the same direction. Well, the one shooting regular daytime footage is just getting sky, but the night vision one on that camera has his orb sitting there spinning in the air, and he's like, hey, this is stuff we're not seeing. We can't see this stuff unless we start using night shot or some sort of infrared. So Jose kind of took the torch from him and created the World Infrared Sky Alliance, and people like Allison Cruz and people all over the world started using night vision and started capturing crazy stuff, and he has that in his film, and it's some pretty crazy stuff floating around, So,
well, I'm gonna have to agree with you, and they really back off a lot with those Sony Handycams. Just that whole night vision shot, they really started backing away from that for a while. But
well, you know why?
They're really making some good ones now, but they're trying to put limits on them.
You know why?
No.
Because if girls were wearing white T-shirts, the night shot could see through them.
I did not know that.
So they discontinued the night shot off the market. I actually still have one because they're a handy camera to have out there, But yeah,
that's a perfect item for the auction.
That's why. Yeah.
Wow. You know what? I wanted to talk to Hawk here at the station because we gave a set of night vision binoculars to the cause at the Bundy Ranch from here at Researchers Radio Live, and we have them back per se. The station has them again, and I'm going to tell Hawk to throw them into the auction too. So we can, maybe if someone is interested in that, let Hawk know. I'm going to send him an email, and instead of sending them back our way, we'll just put them on the auction block, and hopefully someone could go white T-shirt hunting.
Why are they coming back, Joe?
They were no longer needed. They were no longer
I can always use night vision binoculars. Throw it on the raffle, and I could take a crack at it.
Yeah, there we
Dave,
go. There we go. We got a first bid right there. Well, there you go, Dave. I'll auction off one of my own for you too. Well, do you need night vision binoculars? Do you have night vision at all on any camera?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I kind of.
Now I've got night vision, but binoculars and monoculars, and I actually have my Recon 550 has its black and white night vision, and I tend to go back and forth. I like the green night vision. I think it looks really cool, but the black and white night vision, if there's something solid, the black and white night vision picks up the black center of the things, and if there doesn't seem to be anything, it's just brilliant light. So sometimes when you're filming, you can actually see a black center, and then all the field that it's generating around it, as it's blipping through the sky. Sometimes you don't get that, but I think the differential between the green night vision and a black and white night vision is the black and white night vision doesn't get blown out like the regular green night vision.
I'm going to have to agree with you. I just find it overall much better, but even just so much easier on the eyes at night too. It is.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with you on that, Joe. I understand exactly what you mean. Looking up from the camera and looking back at that screen, it's just, I have a hard time adjusting. If you're just focused on the screen,
I do adjust to it, and I could see it, and I kind of forget it. But I just find that the black and white one is just much easier on the eyes.
Plus, the other thing is with the black and white, and you'll see them on some of my YouTube videos. I mean, whatever you have there is really bright. You know, it's smoking bright. And if it's like that on black and white night vision, you can imagine what it looked like in person. You're like, holy mackerel, you know. So
yeah,
but something like that in green night vision, it would just like blow the lens out. You'd be like killing yourself to look at something like that.
You know, it was giving me the binoculars, the ones that we're gonna have. I'm gonna talk to Hawk too. We could get them on the auction. I hope. I have another pair, but they're not good for what I need them for. They're not good for. I want a video. I want to record, and I can record. You can record off of that one. It does have an analog video out, and I just ran that into my other camera. But it's really hard for me when I see a light in the sky that's not 20 miles away or more. It's hard for me to lock onto it and adjust, adjust the focus on it. And more often than not, it's usually so close, Dave, that it's just so damn bright that the camera, it just looks like it goes white. You know what I mean? And I'm always saying, I just wish I just held my best camera the whole time. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm really sorry we lost our guest for the second hour. I hope you didn't mind our discussion. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Joe.
Have a good night, guys.
Thank you, everyone at home. I would love to say all of your names. I cannot. We do not have enough time. We will see you next week. And I hope everyone had a good time. Stay tuned. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
Hi, this is Bo.
And this is Rocco.
And the Bo and Rocco Show is here to offer insight into legal and lawful remedies. Our goal is to remain free and help others remain free in an ever-increasing police-like state. With the help of our guests, we try to answer questions such as what went wrong and what can we do about it.
So tune into Revolution Radio at www.freedomslips.com Wednesday nights, 10 to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to listen to the Bo and Rocco Show.
You don't need to expect us.
We're already here.
Revolution Radio.
Every Tuesday evening on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, we present our goddess spiritual warrior, Kathy Bilski.
I command. I call to the architect of the universe's divine creators and ask for permission to quantum leave the world in all life forms on all planes and dimensions.
You need some more speed records in this day and age. You need coverage.
Coverage? Oh, you mean them little root weevils that crawl around popping off cameras in your face?
Those root weevils write history.
Many of you know that quote by Jack Nicholson and A Few Good Men? You can't handle the truth. Well, you can, and Event Horizons will give you those truths. So when you're mad as hell and not going to take it anymore from that memorable senior network, you'll know just what to do. We will draw you in and become your news addiction at Event Horizons. Join us Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Time at freedomslips.com at Revolution Radio. Our world team members are Dennis Fetcho, John Ilias, David Dunger, Hyla Cass, MD, Melanie Vrichjan, Jim Mars, Paula Harris, John Trallo, Maria Payan, Christopher Husser, DODDS, Jonathan Orchard, and me, your anchor, Dr. Robin Falco.
If you decide not to volunteer, it will not be held against you in any way.
Sounds dangerous. It is. Very dangerous. Count me in.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps.
Enjoy your
extra big-ass fries.
You didn't give me no fries. I got an empty box.
Would you like another?
Extra big-ass fries.
I said I didn't get any.
Thank you. Your account has been charged. Your balance is 0. Please come back when you can afford to make a purchase.
No.
I'm sorry you're having
Come
trouble.
on. My kids are starving.
Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we believe in freedom of ideas, freedom of speech, but above all, we believe in freedom of existence through self-reliance. This station is 100% listener-supported, and as a fundraising promotion, I have a kick-ass free gift for a $100 donation. 35,000 seeds. 25 years in the freezer. Long-term storable, 54 different varieties. So if food prices go crazy, the shit hits the fan, or if you just want to save tons of money every year by creating your own food like I do, grab our seed pack special. Just look for the banner on the homepage at freedomslips.com. Don't be a statistic. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. We need, as humans, to start taking care of ourselves and not depending on the megacorps to provide unhealthy, nasty food. Included in this package is also a DVD with 900 survival and off-grid living documents and the offline home canning how to do everything website all on the DVD. So when you're growing all that food, you know how to can it, store it, preserve it, etc. with all these documents. So thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I hope that you will pick up this package and start learning to be free. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps and freedom is one seed that needs to be planted.
What we do in life, it goes in eternity.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good day. Welcome to Researchers Radio Live. I'm your host, Joe Kieran, along with co-host, fellow hostee, Dave Stinnett. What's going on, brother?
What's going on, Joe?
Man, everything's doing good. Can't complain, man. Weather's fantastic.
Nice, relaxing weekend up in the mountains.
I wish. No mountains here, buddy. Did you got to get out of town again and put your feet up?
Yeah, you have to go up every once in a while, at least to mow the lawn. So
right.
But I hadn't been up there in a few weeks, and it was like way overgrown. It's like a jungle up there.
Nice, hot, humid day.
Well, actually, it was hot, but there was a nice cool breeze blowing Saturday, so I was doing work around the house and just digging life.
Very cool, man. Very cool. It's just hot here. It's just hot, man.
Yeah, it is. I'm back in Jersey now.
Played a little golf this morning. It was good. Got out there, enjoying the fresh breezes of South Carolina. Nice ocean breeze, though, man. It was absolutely gorgeous day, man. Crazy. The weather, such a big difference. When I went to sleep last night, they said there's 80% chance of rain. It was going to probably rain till noon. It was one of the most gorgeous mornings we've had all year, man. It was fantastic. Tim C., what's going on, dude?
Well,
I can tell you. Why don't you come and say hello?
It's not as nice up here in Pine Bush, New York, but it's nice. But we don't have beautiful blue skies all day. It was mostly overcast and kind of muggy. But what are you gonna do?
It sounds.
As you
make
know,
it sound so